Hey y'all, welcome to the Standing on Business podcast, where ambition meets action. From career moves to life lessons,
our podcast is dedicated to supporting you as you navigate both the personal and professional growth journey,
ultimately giving you the confidence to always stand in your truth.
Hey y'all, welcome back. We are back for our third episode of Standing on Business podcast, and we are excited. We have a very special guest here. We're going to be talking about the power of female mentorship and advocacy with none other than Deborah Grimes. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Health and Inclusion Officer at Ochsner Health. So this one is going to be very special to me and Amari because she is also our mentor. So, yes.
Love you.
So we can't wait to hear more about your journey, and we know so much about you, but we also, we get to ask these questions that we probably haven't heard from you yet, just because you're the one, usually pouring into us. So we get a chance to kind of give it a little back. So we can't wait to hear about, you and just how you got started. And yeah, I'll let Amari kick us off.
Perfect. So another thing that I'm really excited about today is the fact that we've had so much value in you being our mentor, and we want to share that with our guests as well, because there's so many things that you've imparted on our careers and just us professionally and personally. We just think that people need to hear what you have to say. Yeah. So we like to start all of our episodes with an elevator pitch. Just so we think it's a very on-brand and fitting way to introduce the audience to who you are. And so if you don't mind, ma'am, what is your elevator pitch? Do you mind?
Well, it would be my pleasure. First of all, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be with two of my favorite people in the world, so I appreciate that. So, yeah, in terms of when you think about an elevator pitch, you always want to think about, if I only had 5 minutes with a person, what would I want to leave them with? Yeah. And, that can be personal or professional, but in the corporate world, it's really telling them enough that they like, wow, that's a great leader, right? And so in my mind, I always start out with my name, because you want to leave that with them and say, hey, I'm Deborah Grimes, your title, what you do. I'm the Senior Vice President, Chief of Health Outcomes and Inclusion. I've been with the organization for 4.5 years. My role here expands from A, Y, and Z. And I'm so excited to share this with you. One thing that we are most proud of this year is we were able to really reflect and think about what the next scope of work should look like. We just changed our name to Health Outcomes because we believe it really reflects the body of work that we're doing. And what that does for people is you're introducing yourself, but you're also saying, it's something hot out there that I've been working on. So, but it's not too forward, like you're not, it shouldn't last past 5 minutes, so to speak. And it needs to be natural too, so.
No, that's so true, because I think not only is, and I say this all the time, like you only get one chance to make a first impression, and typically,
we talk about this a lot, yeah.
But typically that is what people remember you by. No matter how many other interactions and engagements that you have, they always seem to have that first impression be the thing that sticks, that you build upon. And so, yeah, I think it's super important, but beyond it just being your introduction, it's also kind of your callback, because if you can perfect your elevator pitch, that's going to be the thing that makes people want to reach back out and say,
and remember you too.
Yeah, or like let me ask a couple more questions and get to know this person a little bit more beneath the surface.
Yeah. And I feel Deb's been good with like telling us about just, you want to get with people that are speaking your names in rooms that, you aren't in, and Deb does a great job.
That is so true. I mean, I think it's important to, connections are important.
Yeah.
And you want to make them authentically, but you want to make them in a way that people will remember, or they want to mention you, so just building those relationships. And sometimes it's on an elevator. Sometimes it's, getting a cup of coffee. Sometimes it's walking from the parking deck. But I think what I like to tell, early career is it's never too early. You need to practice. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, practice doesn't mean it's not authentic. It just means you want to be prepared, because those moments could come when you're least likely to experience them. And so if you haven't practiced this, you won't even know what to say.
Yeah.
You'll just say, hey, I'm Deborah Grimes, and you might remember your title, and then that's it. Like, you won't be prepared for the moment. So
like the experience piece, like what else they have going on.
That's right.
And when you really think about it, it's really just like your self-advertisement. You know, it's your way that you advertise that's always going to be unique to you. And it's like, well, how well are you branding? You know, so.
And sometimes as women, we don't like to self-advertise. We really think that the work should speak for itself. Whereas sometimes our male counterparts, they like to over-advertise. Like, you know, everything they did is wonderful. Everything they did was the best. And we could be doing like wonderful work, but we feel like people ought to just organically know it, or our boss should be saying it, or, you know, we just don't get, we're not very comfortable selling ourselves sometimes.
And I appreciate you highlighting that, because I think it kind of foreshadows some of the conversation that we want to have with you today. Our episode is, you know, today is the power of female mentorship and advocacy. And I think what you just imparted was kind of a unique point from a female perspective. And I think what you just shared is kind of the value in female mentorship. It's like sometimes we have a lens that maybe like men may not have in the workplace, and that's important, you know, to be able to understand that perspective and then use it to navigate the environment. So you're already knocking us out the park. We're like 5 minutes in. I love it.
So Deb, I know we have a unique connection with us starting as nurses. And so as I feel like my path, even though I feel like I'm midway, but still starting out, like it has not been linear at all. But we want to talk to you about, like, how did you get to be, you know, senior vice president? And, you know, what has led you to, you know, get there? What experiences have been unique that really shaped you getting to where you are now?
You know, that's a great question, Bianca. When, you know, and you get asked that from time to time, but my answer is always, you know, the same, is having a philosophy of remaining curious and never thinking you have all the answers, and not being afraid to pivot, not be afraid to think outside of the box. You know, all of those things lends itself to where I am today. And I also think it's important to be committed to being a lifetime learner.
Yes, I feel like you tell us that all the time.
Yeah.
In our one-on-one sessions.
I mean, you know, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a forever student, because, you know, but it does mean that you're committed, that, you know, I'm reflective of, we're in a, you know, a historical bookstore. And so you're surrounded by all of this knowledge, but knowledge only becomes wisdom if you're willing to embrace it. And so I really started out my career really wanting to stay true to that. So, and one of the things by picking to be a nurse is that you are forced to be evolving, because medicine doesn't stay the same. The art of nursing doesn't stay the same.
Every day is different.
And every patient is different. Why? Because we're all humans. If you're in the human business, you will be forever adapting. So I chose to go into the human business for a reason. And so that by itself, and this very nature of it, forced me to always be evolving. From a career perspective, you know, I picked well at 18. So I love everything about healthcare. But I graduated nursing school, entered into the practice of nursing when I was 22 years old. And I did not know that 61 was going to come so quickly, but I knew that God willing, it was going to come. And so I started thinking in terms of, you know, I probably can't do this until I'm 70. You know, I could, but I don't think physically, you know, it takes a lot out of you to be a nurse. And so I probably in my late 20s started really thinking about what's next for me. And I wasn't running away from nursing, but I wanted to build on my commitment to serving people and caring for people. And sometimes it's a little luck too, you know, it's a journey. It's not like you have a roadmap for this. So it was in the middle of the night. We were just sitting around talking to some medical students, and I overheard them say, nurses do really well in law school. I had not ever met a lawyer. I didn't have any basis than that, and I just started researching. Okay, that intrigues me, and then I started talking to other lawyers in healthcare, and within 90 days, I was in law school. I got accepted in law. So that was just that wasn't a design, wasn't well thought out. Now I don't tell my children that because I tell them they have to think out everything. But I'm amongst friends today, so I'm just feeling like I can tell the truth. And then I loved it. I thought I hit the jet, because I was able to literally walk across the street, and I was in the general counsel office. Got very blessed. I didn't have to leave my organization. Was able to practice law there, and did medical malpractice work so I could utilize my nursing and my legal, and it was great. I was thinking like, I'm gonna retire from this. And then an interesting thing happened. And life was lifing too. I married. I had 2 children. And my children went to school, and all of a sudden I started thinking, like, is this it for me? Like, maybe I could do something else. And I kind of got the leadership bug. My organization, just for 1 year, had a formalized mentoring program. And I was selected by the CEO to be 4 people to be mentored. And I was so fortunate to have like the best mentor in the world. She really instilled in me some beliefs that really have been with me for about 25 years. Amazing. And she mentored me formally for 6 months. And then she hired me, and she said, you're done with this mentoring thing. But little did she know that relationship has continued for 25 years. And I say she's still my mentor. Yeah. But she's like, I am your friend now. But I've never made a professional decision without talking to her about it, ever, in 25 years. So there's that. And that's how I got into leadership. And then probably 5 years into that, she became my sponsor. And what a sponsor is that she had a relationship with the CEO, and she was leaving the organization, and she told the CEO he should promote me to a VP, and he said yes. Yeah. There was no job. There was no. That's the power of sponsorship. Yeah. So,
can you talk a little bit more about that and what people should look for in a mentor versus a sponsor? Because you talked to us about it, and I feel like it gave us a good perspective, and especially seeing who all is in our circle is a mentor versus a sponsor.
Yeah, so the first thing I always say is that, you can ask someone to be your to be your mentor. You may never in your whole career ever have a sponsor. Or if you have a sponsor, it may be a silent sponsor. So you can't ask someone to sponsor you, because that's like asking for special treatment. Yeah. I say sponsorship is just like a mystery gift, like it comes, and if it comes, it's wonderful, like the story I just told you, but you really can't say, hey, can you go tell somebody to create a job for me? That just doesn't come out right. But what I do think is that you should work at organizations who believe in sponsorship, who understands the power of sponsorship, because it is a term that's misunderstood in a way. But if organizations embrace it, if leaders embrace it, it is a very powerful tool to help accelerate people who would sometimes go unheard or unseen. So it is a powerful thing. Mentorship, though, is a very personal relationship, and you can have a lot of mentors. And I encourage people to have a variety and a very diverse level of mentorship. You can have peers that are mentors. You can have people that you admire something about them, and they could not have it. It doesn't have to. It could be personal or professional. So that's the difference.
No, I love that you brought that up. I feel like you just imparted so many different gems, and I'm like, I have so many follow-up questions. I think where I would like to start is you mentioned having kind of like a diversified portfolio when it comes to mentorship. I guess to start high level, and then we can break it down. What are those domains for you of like where you feel like you need mentorship? Like, is it spiritual? Is it professionally? Like, what does that look like across the different pillars of your life? And then maybe when you're seeking that out, what does that look like? Like, who is a good type of person to be your spiritual advisor or your professional? You know, like, how do you know the difference between someone who is showing up with a title and it's like, okay, like you have it, but you do really have it. Yeah.
But not the influence.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
So, yes.
So, you know, people have, there's no one way, so it's not like it's cookie cutter, but I can tell you how I view mentorship now is that I generally live my life as if me, the person, is a corporation. And the way corporations work, you have to have a board of directors. And my mentors are my board of directors, right? Okay. And so you have to be very careful who you invite. Not everybody can be on the board, right? But when they are on the board, what do? They give you direction. Yeah. And they should be high level, very strategic. So that means they have to know something, right? And they're not there forever. Board members have terms. They roll off, you know. And so I encourage people to think about their career, just think about themselves as humans as they grow, to say, you know, I am the CEO of me, but I can't be the best CEO alone. And if you ever met a CEO that thinks that, then they're narcissists and run away from that. Yeah. But for me, I'm the CEO of my life, so that means I need to have a rainbow of people with an array of experiences, and you never select a board of directors without interviewing them. So you may think that I've observed something about this person, but I always have a preliminary interview. People may not know that they're being interviewed, but and sometimes I do. Yeah. Like, so before you ask somebody to be your mentor, have that first mentoring session. Okay. And it is okay to say, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with me, and then never contact them again. Or not like that. But you don't invite everybody. It's not going to work 100% of the time, and it's okay. Some people have one story, and when they tell you the story, then it's over, and that's okay. But then when you select your board of directors, you need to be intentional about having different people around the table, because if all of your mentors are the same, they have the same experience, they don't push you, you're not growing, then you need to evaluate, because you're not going to get the full benefit of having that board of directors. So, and as you grow, you need to have people roll off. I told you one example of my mentor kept growing, so she always had more to give me, and you know, and so that's why she could stay with me for 20. Some people don't keep growing, and so that means it's a season, and it's okay. It's okay to have them roll.
No, I 110% agree that it's important to, as you evolve, kind of be doing those personal audits and the introspection of, does this still fit me and serve me in this season, or the inverse of, am I serving them? You know, am I still in a place where the mentee model that we were following originally even makes sense today, because maybe I've grown and I'm, you know, or, you know, with Bianca and I, we're now venturing into entrepreneurship. So it's like we have a lot of mentors that are from like corporate sector and like traditional tracks, but now it's like, well, if the experience and the funds of knowledge that you can impart on us only goes so far, and maybe we're trying to continue this race and this marathon of being entrepreneurs, maybe we just need to adjust a little bit. So it's not to say that people have to go. Maybe some people will, to create space for new mentors to come. But I think too, with mentorship, it's never really a true goodbye, because the connection's always there if you want to tap back into it, and if you've done a good job with cultivating the relationship. And I think that's a part of evolution.
And the wonderful thing about mentorship, it can turn into friendship.
Yes.
Now, once it turns into friendship, there's no longer a mentorship. So you have to, then it becomes a friend giving you advice. Yeah. So I do caution people with, it can feel the same, but mentorship is a process. It's a thing that has to be protected. And so you do need to, because your mentor is not your friend. And if it becomes their friend, then they're not pushing you enough.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That is so true. I'm laughing because in my mind, I just heard like my mom say, I'm not one of your little friends. Yeah, I think that's honestly the perfect way to think about mentorship. It's the same framework. It's the same.
Yeah.
Like microcosm almost of like, your mom says she's not one of your little friends, and then you get older and you're like 18, 21, and it's like, actually,
now we can be friends.
We can run it. Yeah, come on, girl.
But she will be friendly.
Yeah.
She will never be your friend.
That is very true.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I'm hearing my mother echo in my back of like, I'm still not one of your friends, but loving and all of the things. Another thing that you mentioned that I do want to kind of go back to is kind of having a diversified portfolio of mentorship. I think you're probably one of the best people to speak to this, but I think for me, when I seek out mentors, it's about what is the value that this person can bring to me, not necessarily, well, how much experience have you had and what is your title and what do you do? It's how can you pour into my cup in a way that I can build and grow and learn from you. And then in turn, hopefully, as a mentee, I can take that and, transform it into something that's tangible to say, hey, I took this and ran with it and I was able to learn, but here's the end product. So saying all that to say, how do you advise people to lean into relationships that may feel uncomfortable because it's like someone that they didn't necessarily think that they would need mentorship from? So like, for instance, if you are looking to make a career pivot and, you're a little bit more senior age-wise or generationally, but your mentors are all, a generation after you or a generation under, for you, have you ever experienced that of like having a mentor that might be younger or of a different culture? And what was that like?
I choose mentors that I can learn from. And you're never too old to learn, and you're never too young to teach.
Ooh.
So that's just a principle that I believe in. So if you believe in that, then I learn a lot from younger people because if you live a long life like I've been fortunate to do, and I hope I live a lot longer, things change. Yeah. But yet, if you keep the same people that are in your age bracket, you won't be courageous enough. You won't be in tune with AI or all chat GPT, all the things. Like if I only talk to people that were 61 years old, probably they're not using that. And so I tend to go into things. I teach at the university, so that allows me, and I learn as much from them as they learn from me. And so mentorship is very much like that. It's not an age. Okay. It really is an experience. And you cannot experience the totality of life because you're only one human. But life is out there, life for everyone. The universe is filled with experiences. And so you just have to attach yourself with enough people to absorb what the universe is giving you. But if you limit it to just the finite this or that, you're not going to get everything that's available to you.
No, I'll say that's very important. And as you mentioned, like you learn a lot from each other. How do you feel like somebody could be a really good mentee, and what can they give to their mentor?
I think staying curious and being transparent and being honest and really sharing the totality of themselves. Okay. Because when you do that, it's really you're experiencing one another. But if you become very in the box, like I'm just taking, like I have nothing to give, that's not really like that's just service. But mentoring that's a relationship, and it takes both people giving for it to work.
I love that. And then how do you feel like people should say, for our audience, like as a freshman in college, like they're just starting their journey, like what should their first mentor be? Or like, what do you have an idea in your mind of like who they should seek out?
Absolutely, because believe it or not, I was a freshman once. And when this is an interesting story. So when I moved into the dorm, hadn't taken my first class yet, I was moving in, and a young woman was moving out, and she was moving out because she was just graduated, taking her first job as a nurse. Oh, and perfect. Something came in my mind like, you're the person I need to meet. And I said, here's the thing. You're doing the thing I want to do. I want to graduate from nursing. what would be the one thing, one advice you could give me? So I would say to the young freshmen out there, find a senior that's about to graduate, because that's the perfect mentor, because they're doing the thing that in 4 years or 5 years you want to do, because they will have something to say.
Yes. And they could,
remove barriers. Right. They could tell
see
you
how their careers going.
Absolutely.
Yes. And nursing, so you find mentors like so many different generationally, you're always working multidisciplinary with the physicians, PTs. So I know in nursing specifically, you're meeting so many different people.
I am always scoping out every time I decide to do something, I'm finding somebody that's doing the thing I want to do.
Yes.
So
I would say, and I do that. I feel like, LinkedIn, that's my thing.
Yeah.
I'm a LinkedIn stalker.
Yes. I think everyone is a little bit. It just depends on how comfortable you are with that public profile, saying, hey, this person viewed your profile. But you have coined, leaning into seeking out and researching the people that you're interested in connecting with and making that genuine connection with them in a way that's appropriate. So it doesn't come off like, oh, did this person creep me out and stalk me to find,
Just a little bit. But I would say I did this, and I think I told you briefly, but most people don't know, as, I was in nursing school, I was a junior, and I was already looking at administrative fellowships, which is not normal in nursing at all. So me going and looking, I think it was Tiffany at the time, that was the Ochsner Fellow.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
And so I reached out to her on LinkedIn and just wanted to know more information. And so that kind of helped me see okay, this is something else. This is another option. Because nursing has so many options.
Yeah, you do.
So it was just okay, well, I'm going to apply, and applied everywhere. But then ultimately got Ochsner.
Wow.
So that's a little tidbit, a little background.
Yeah. I also like that you kind of opened up the conversation for us to talk about what does it look like to invest in yourself in being a good mentee. What does that actually look like? And sometimes that looks like being a go-getter or, conducting the follow-up and being consistent. And so I guess, Deb, for you being on the other end of the spectrum, because I think we mentor people as well, but you mentor a lot of people, you are a wealth of knowledge. And so I guess I wanted to ask you from the mentee perspective, what do you qualify as a good mentee? Because I think that's a thing to highlight of when you finally do make the connection and you do secure the mentor, you get the bag. Now what do you do? How do you lean into that and keep your mentor engaged and wanting to continue to foster your connection?
Yeah.
And how do you prepare for that? So from your lens, what does that look like to be a good mentee?
That's a great question. But I think it's showing up prepared. Not the first session, because you never know. Every mentor is a little bit different. But if session after session you show up and you don't have an agenda, or you don't have one question, or you don't remember what you talked about in the last session, that's probably not going the right direction. And I've learned over time to always give assignments, and if the person didn't do it, I can quickly say, you know what, this is going to be a short session today, because you don't have what we talked about from the last session. And then they'll understand that I value my time. I'm not going to we're not having a conversation. We can have a conversation, but that's not mentoring. So I think it's really taking it seriously and valuing the other person's time. Because especially if you pick people that are really busy, or pick people that, it's not a sacrifice, because people love doing it. But it's a little bit disrespectful if you're not in this to actually improve.
Yeah. No, I chuckled at the beginning because I was putting something down and you picked it right up, because I feel like you were describing me.
I would say, honestly, we just talked on Monday, and I was like, that was kind of our session.
Kind of a read.
We kind of just talked, Deb. So.
Because we've already done the work. For us, it's touching bases.
Right.
It's really you have the plan. Is for us now, we're at the stage where it's touching base to make sure you're on course.
Yeah.
And then we go on all sorts of things.
I know. So, we talk about all sorts of things.
Yeah. But so I'm talking really about a structured mentorship. And it will evolve to then it just becomes touch touch points.
No, I love that because I think we in this room, you can see everything that you just described personified. And I loved it when you mentioned, I laughed because it was just like, we've come so far from those days, because I entered my career very green, very wet behind the ears. To backtrack a little bit, I think sometimes people don't know what they don't know. Like, I had never heard of having an agenda and coming to a meeting prepared with things to discuss with my mentor or preceptor. And so I appreciated when we connected and you were like, well, when you talk to your preceptor, do you have an agenda? And I'm like, no, I'm just going in talking. Like, how's your day? And you're like, this person who has 50,000 things that they do every day does not want you asking them how was their weekend. And so it
you
just
can, but you got to have an and.
You need some substance.
Yes.
And to your point, I think that's where the mentor is able to help you. If you come prepared and you're valuing their time, in turn, what you're doing is investing in yourself in some way or capacity, because if you're coming prepared with what help is needed, your mentor is better able to assess and ascend resources to you or support. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was kind of like a personal moment for us of like the person that I was probably during our consult mentorship talk is not the person that I am today. And I appreciate you so much because I've been able to grow and evolve and mature both professionally and personally, because I've been able to take some of the things that you've taught me and apply them as needed in my personal life as well. And I think, I'm sure my family thanks you for that. My friends thank you for helping me to grow and just.
Well, it's mutual. I mean, I learned something from every relationship, and I so value you two ladies because it just, you do the work, and I'm just to see you from where we were when we first met, and it's just been wonderful.
I know that we definitely want to give you your flowers and thank you because like even with us, I feel like I was given to you in a time of crisis, and I was just like, hi, I'm here, I'm a fellow to help you. But also, ultimately, honestly, you taught me so much, and that was like, I feel like my first major project was working on the diversity, equity, inclusion strategy, and like the listening sessions, and me and Jacob just managing this whole system project. And you were, we'll come to you, we'll say this is what we're doing, and like go back to work, and
y'all will go do it,
and we'll go do it. And then obviously we developed a friendship and a relationship over that time and a mentorship. So definitely appreciate you, Deb.
Oh no, you're welcome. Y'all are just like filling my heart today.
No, truly,
such a gift.
I can't give you what Bianca just gave because we will be in here crying. But in short, I will say I truly am so thankful for you, because for me, I think you were one of those guiding lights that ultimately changed the trajectory of where my career could have gone. And had it not been for our relationship and you pouring into me and us creating and cultivating community, I would not have the opportunities that I have. I wouldn't have the confidence to step out on faith and minimize my fears. So there's just so many things that I can say, but you are so invaluable to me, and I will forever be indebted for all of the things that you've imparted upon me. And I'm just thankful for you. Wow. And we are connected. So how you had that mentor for the last 25
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah, that's us.
I know. Cynthia Barganier, that's her name. Yes. But, and I generally don't ask anything, but one of the things I do want to ask both of you is to commit to mentoring others, because you have so much to give. And I just feel like, if you've gotten anything from me, it's to keep that commitment. We got to keep this going, because one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about is that you're blessed to be a blessing. And so I, just keep this going, and I just can't wait to see the great things you're going to be.
We definitely will. Thank you. And I think that's kind of the essence of why we did the podcast. Like, we had so many hands nurture us in our professional climb that we would be remiss if we did not extend those same hands to the leaders and innovators and creators that are coming behind us. So I love that this is kind of the note that we're wrapping up on. Before we go, Deb, I do want to ask, maybe as a way for us to kind of sign off, what advice or piece of information or knowledge would you want to impart on our audience today? Like if you could give them one lasting piece of something as a takeaway with this conversation with you in regards to mentorship or just professionalism, what would that be?
So, wow, that's a
it's a little loaded,
yeah. But what I would say is that, you know, we're living in uncertain times. I mean, just however you define that. But I think stay authentic, stay true to yourself, and really embrace life as life comes. And, you know, don't put all of yourself into one bucket. You should carve out things that you're going to do for your professional career. You should carve out things you're going to do for your family. You should carve out things you're going to do for your faith. You should carve out things you're going to do for your health. But that makes up a totality of yourself. And I don't believe in balance, but I do believe in peace. And I do believe in joy. And I do believe in happiness. And if you can't get a little bit of that, then we have a problem. So I would just seek out peace, joy, happiness, friends, and health. Wellness is incredibly important. So just prioritize diversifying your goals, and I think you'll be just fine.
That's great last word.
That was. Actually, I felt that. I feel like just in general, even though we've known you for years now, like I learned so much in this episode with you. So I just want to thank you again for taking the time out to pour into our venture, but also into the people, you know, the next generation that we're hoping to inspire and impact. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Deb.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we go, I do want to say that these lovely centerpiece flowers are actually our gift to you.
Oh,
yes.
Wow.
Yes. So we love you.
That is so sweet. I know I've been No,
it's for you.
Oh,
that's
wow.
really
Awesome.
awesome.
Absolutely
that is
beautiful.
essentially a representation
I appreciate
of
that.
everything that you've given us that has blossomed into today, into our now.
They are gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you. We thank you. We appreciate you. And so I guess that is the end for us. So we appreciate all of you who have tuned in to this episode of Standing on Business Podcast. I'm your co-host, Amari.
I'm your co-host, Bianca.
And we will see you next episode. But in the meantime, please like, comment, subscribe. And if you are interested in keeping up with Bianca or myself, you can find me on LinkedIn at Amari Green.
And me at Bianca Cook.
Deb, where can the people find you if they need you or want to follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn at Deborah Grimes.
Perfect. Yeah. Also, if you're interested in keeping up with our podcast updates, you can follow us on Instagram at standonbusiness.pod. Again, we appreciate you, and until next time.